Sweet. Okay, so gentlemen, welcome to the Fitness Burrito Podcast, right? So I am Dan. So for anybody tuning in, my name is Dan Kirion. I'm the guy behind the podcast. I'm also the guy behind Abante Performance. And today I'm super stoked, super pumped to have two guys on the podcast who are cousins. They run a very successful podcast called Rich in Success as well. So I've got Dan Ramsden and Matt Hall on the podcast today. Pretty excited about this one because we've got a lot of cool, I think, topics to talk about: motivation, mindset, all that kind of stuff. So I'm actually going to let Dan and Matt introduce themselves again. They just kind of did an introduction for me earlier. It's the first time we've kind of caught up properly. So first off, thanks for coming on, guys. Appreciate you taking the time. I don't know who wants to kick things off. I don't know who's the alpha in the duo, but who wants to kick things off?
Matt loves to speak, so go for it, sugar.
I'm like the little chihuahua, so Dan visually is definitely alpha, but verbally it's going to be me, isn't it? I'm always getting in there. I've always got to be the loudmouth.
Nice,
honestly, Daniel, thank you so much for having us both on the show. And we want to just use this opportunity to try and give as much value as we can to your listeners. I think a lot of what we speak about is very, very aligned. We're all about mindset, motivation, personal development, fitness, health. And ultimately for me, you know, the biggest motivator, if you like, is the fact that we're all going to die on this planet. So I'm going to start on a really, really morbid tone. But
Get in there,
really
man.
Important that we do actually take things like this seriously. Don't just use a podcast as a little bit of short-term external motivation and then go back to doing the same dumb shit that we all can do from time to time. Actually take the messages that we talk about today and immediately take action and implement some of that stuff, because that's where personal development comes. It's actually developing the person, it's taking action and getting new results. And that's something that Dan and I are very, very passionate about. So the two of us, as you said, are cousins. And we are just now coming up to episode 100 of our podcast, the Rich in Success podcast, which ultimately, Dan, I mean, if you just want to talk a little bit about why we started, but ultimately it was two cousins on a mission to help impact the world, as we say.
Yeah, it sounds a bit crazy, doesn't it? But, you know, we've had many hours through training and obviously being cousins and having deep and open-minded chats along the journey. And it was like, I feel like we really need to do something. We need to go out on a limb and really try and help as many people as we can. It was coming at around a time where me and Matt were personally going through difficult times ourselves. And it was just one of those things where we're like, we have to really go out there and tear the arse out of this life and just see what we can do. And we thought, how can we make an impression on getting obesity statistics lower, lifestyle illnesses lower, mental health issues lower, and we can help to spread a positive message. And it was like, let's do a podcast. Let's find out what other people's interpretations of what is success, what does it mean to them, and how can we implement the tools and the tactics and strategies that they have and they live by each and every day. So it's a tangible thing that people can go out and go and execute immediately. And that's the thing about what Matt's just said there. Try not to just take the message that we say today and just take and go, oh, yeah, that was good, and then just not implement none of them. If you're searching for something, if you're looking for some kind of improvement in any facet of your life, take the message and go and run with it and do something with it.
Yeah.
So that's where it all came from, really.
Yeah, I fucking love that. You know what? Already, I'm loving the energy, right? Because sometimes, you know, you just need to get a few people on that are just going to fucking go for it on the podcast. And already, I know it's going to be a great one. So I appreciate that energy already.
I want to say there, Daniel, sorry to jump in, but that is such a good point you've just made already. Like, energy is currency. Be aware, as the listeners to this right now, be aware of your energy. Like, vet yourself on a daily, hourly basis. What is the frequency you're putting out into the world? Every time you meet somebody, you know, even if it's just going to the same job you've done for 5, 10, 15 years, are you just in autopilot? Are you just in reactive and responsive mode? Or are you actually going with purpose, with intention, and creating a good vibe and getting the most out of that opportunity? This isn't all about being entrepreneurs and multimillionaires. If you are a window cleaner, are you being the most vibrant, positive, best window cleaner that you can be? So I think that's a really big point. People are always searching for the answers of how to improve life. It starts with some of the simple basics, like how are you showing up? What is your energy like? And I think that if people can become more aware of some of that simplistic stuff, but on a daily basis, watch how that compounds over the weeks and months and see the results that starts to come back.
100%. And it's actually like you said a few key words there. Intention was one. Obviously, you just went on a tangent about energy that I love. One thing I actually have every day in my phone, I started this about 3 weeks ago, is I have 3 words that pop up at every 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. in my phone. And it's 3 words that I want my future self to be described as. So for my 3 words is energy, impact, and then live, right? So energy, because then every time I see it, I think, okay, what type of energy am I bringing to every single situation? If I'm just changing rooms, so like I'm in the living room right now because my housemate's upstairs and my missus in the office, so we're always kind of juggling around. So it's like, even if I just walk through a different door, what's that energy going to be like, right? Then impact, kind of like to your point. And this is kind of why I started the podcast too, similar to you guys, is I wanted people to be able to use this information and practically apply it. I think sometimes it's easy for us to kind of like talk about the fitness industry and use all these fancy words, but the reality is it's very simple and it's just kind of how you apply it. And if we can make that easy for people, then it's going to help massively. And then also just live, which is my last word, which is kind of like taking, you know, like the moment for what it is and not always thinking ahead. And also not always dwelling on the past. I think sometimes, especially for myself, if you're someone who's quite impatient, which I kind of am, and you're always on the go and you never want to stop moving, like you forget what's happening in the moment. So yeah, and then the last thing I caught on to what you said, Matt, was intention. And another thing that I recently started doing every now and then when I catch myself being a little bit kind of like too sporadic with shit is I'll just take 15 seconds, I'll close my eyes. And this is from, I'm assuming you've heard Brendon Burchard before. Yeah. So for anybody out there who doesn't know who Brendon Burchard is, he's written some awesome books. He's a crazy performance coach, probably one of the best in the world, really, if not the best, according to him, of course. And one of the things in his book is you take 15 seconds and you basically just kind of tell yourself to release. You try to relax your shoulders as much as you can. And then you think about what you're about to do next in that next 15 seconds. You pretty much take all that energy and you channel it and you try to set new intention. So I just thought I'd piggyback off that point, Matt. But yeah, super excited to have you on. Dan, is there anything you want to add to that? Because we kind of just took a bit of your thunder, I'm sure.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. You guys just flow. But on that as well, on that point you just made there, it's the vision, it's the visualize. You know, what do you want your outcome to be? And many people, I feel that this is what me and Matt have been noticing when we're coaching. They don't know what they want. They kind of do, but it's a bit here, there, a bit there, and everywhere, and they don't really have the tangible ways on how they can get there. So there's no reverse engineer tactics on what step to take. And there's so much material out there to learn from, and there's so many distractions, you know, WhatsApp groups, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. There's notifications popping up left, right, and centre. We're glued to our phones. There's conversations going on. We're driving. There's podcasts. Like, what the fuck am I going to do with all this stuff? And people need to get their vision set first, and then that's when they can go get what they want. And it's about what you said there as well, making things a bit more simple. In the fitness industry in particular, there's so much confusion and so many conflicting points and arguments. And then nobody gets anything done because there's so much conflicting information out there. So it's about, what do you want? How do we get there? And let's make it as basic as possible.
And it's about having, on that, Dan, it's about the clarity, isn't it? Because people think they've got a vision. They say, I want more money. I want to get healthier. I want to get fitter. But there's no clarity, like how much fitter, how much more money. Do you understand how much you have to make daily to get that by a certain date? Then do you understand tax implications? So it's having vision, like what Dan says, but a real bulletproof, clear vision. So that you can smell it, touch it, feel it, actually experience it now as if you've got it. Then you can see it a lot clearer. Then you can figure out how to get there. And something else you said there about patience, just to touch on that, it's something I call, you've always got to be impatiently patient. Because I think a little level of impatience can be a driving factor and motivating in itself. but you've also got to respect and appreciate that, you know, any kind of sustainable change takes time. And we know that from training and, you know, from diet. If you want change in your body, you're not going to get that overnight. But equally, having that little bit of fire and a little bit of impatience within the patients can actually serve you. And so for me, just going back on some of the things you said, something I always say, and I want people listening to this, if you've got a pen and paper to write this down, not if you're driving, just keep driving, listen, maybe write it down when you get to your destination. But for me, one of the aims is to be completely at peace with who you are today, be completely at peace with everything you've done in your past, because it's all brought you here. You've learned from every perceived failure, and also in equal measures, be completely at peace with striving every single day to be better. Because what I believe we should be striving for is the things that make us feel fulfilled, because it's fulfillment that is a thing that we can always strive for. Happiness is a little bit of a lie. We're taught as children, and they lived happily ever after. And we don't start to think about that phrase came from a fairy tale story. So actually striving for happiness, you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is an elusive goal. And it'll forever be an elusive goal. So in other words, I would suggest, if listeners are wanting to learn, how can I be better? How can I feel happier? Look for fulfillment. Can you put your head on the pillow every single night and say, I've got fulfillment out of the things I've done today, even if it's been a tough day, even if you're exhausted and it's been hard and you're not necessarily feeling happy, are you feeling fulfilled? If so, I believe you're on the right path.
Wow. Some knowledge bombs there, Matt. Jesus, can't even keep up with you. So you know what? I mean, I know. So for anybody listening, I always try to send questions to people before we do podcasts, and then Dan and Matt told me they don't fucking do any of that on their podcast. And I'm basically trying to figure out if I've got my shit figured out. But so I've realized, you know what? We're just going to go off the top with this, because every time Matt or Dan opens their mouth, I just figure out, oh my God, like there's just so many things I want to talk about now. So one of the things I actually sent over was actually about happiness and satisfaction. And you just talked about happiness and how it's like an elusive dream and, you know, everyone's chasing it. And one thing I heard not long ago on a different podcast was someone talking about happiness versus satisfaction. And it was actually a Nobel Prize winner in psychology. And he was basically talking about both. And I just thought I'd ask you guys, like, what are your thoughts on people chasing happiness, and do you actually think they're chasing satisfaction instead? And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of people will feel like, oh, I need to be making 70 grand a year, driving a Beamer and going to Ibiza 3 times a year to be happy, when maybe it's like, actually that's for me to be satisfied, and I've actually got everything in my life for me to be happy. So, you know what I mean? So how do you guys distinguish that with your clients? Because I think that's a tough question.
It depends what the goal is. It depends what do you have that's on your priority? What's your top 3 things in life that you want to achieve? What means the most to you? And then it's understanding, why does that mean something to you? So then you've got to start working a little bit deeper so that particular person can unravel themselves. That's the whole point. It's not for anybody else to say. It's not for a coach to say. It's not for anybody who's ever had any type of success in their life. It's for them to figure out themselves on their own journey. Why am I doing what I do? And why does it mean something to me? When you can start to figure out the whys, you can then attach it to, well, this makes more sense now to me. And ultimately, you know, will cars bring you fulfillment and happiness? Short term, probably. You know, same as a 6-pack would on a transformational photo. That'll bring you that joy in that moment, but then that's going to fade as well, you know. So you've got to find the true fulfillment in the journey of what you're doing, and ultimately ask yourself, why am I doing this? And is this serving me and serving the people that I love the most as well? Because human connection is massive. If we don't have that, you can have the Beamers, you can have the money, you can have the mansions. If you haven't got human connection, you haven't got shit. So
and yeah, just to touch on that, just to give you my take on that question, I think it is more satisfaction, because for me, satisfaction is a similar word to fulfillment, right? And I think that it is fulfillment that people are looking for. Now, how do we identify this? Dan and I coach people on something called 7 levels deep. You may have heard of it, and I think it's really simplistic again, but a really effective thing to do. So you take your goals and you ask yourself the question for one of those goals, why does that matter to me? And then you come up with an answer. And then once you've got that answer, you ask the question again, why does that matter to me? And what you'll find is when you keep repeating this question around 7 times, you get a lot more to the root of why your goals are your goals. And what you'll find usually is one of 2 outcomes. One is it's a bullshit goal that I don't actually need. Or the other is that actually this is a necessity and I've now got a real emotional attachment to achieving that goal that I didn't have before. So I think that's something that everyone should do is really, it's all well and good having goals, but what's so much more important is going 7 levels deep on why those goals matter. And for me, 9 times out of 10, it's about, as humans, we want to grow. I believe we want to grow, we want to evolve, we want to experience, and we want to be striving for fulfillment. We want to feel like we're doing something meaningful and impactful. And I think, again, that just comes back to people get a little bit lost in chasing happiness, and actually what they want is to be fulfilled.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people are going to relate to that, guys. And how do you start? Like, I know you said there's 7 levels, but what's like that initial conversation look like with somebody who comes to you and, whether it's even fitness or, personal development, like what's that initial chat like? Is it a lot of just for you guys breaking people down, understanding what makes them tick and asking them why? Or is it maybe there's like a different approach to it, obviously with your 7 systems?
It depends who you're coaching as well. It depends on that individual person, what they're like as a character. You've got to read between the lines in terms of when you're coaching somebody. As you'll know as a PT, not everybody moves the same, not everybody performs the same, and you've got to treat different bodies in different ways. And sometimes you've got to take a bit more, care and attention to in terms of how people are moving. You've got to watch their ankles, you've got to watch the knees, you've got to spend a little bit more time on attention and studying how people are moving. It's a similar kind of thing with personalities when it comes to coaching and understanding how you're going to help that individual get what they want. That's the ultimate thing. And so there's not a one set way. You've got to use your intuition that comes through experience.
Absolutely agree with Dan. People come to you and they've got certain core values. They've got certain perspectives that have been ingrained through years of conditioning and experiences. When they come to me, it's about trying to figure out as quickly as I can, what is their current map of the world? What are their current beliefs and core values? And which of them are serving them and which of them aren't? And then it's about trying to figure out where did these belief systems come and start to reframe some of their ways that they look at things. And then that's where we go from there. So sometimes the 7 levels deep might not come in, for a few sessions, or sometimes it might be that they've already got that. But like Dan says, it's just having that intuition, isn't it? And figuring out where somebody's at and what they need at that moment and taking it from there. So everybody's very different.
And also the biggest thing that we find, generally speaking, is people lack confidence and their self-talk. A lot of people have a very low opinion of themselves. Where are you from, Dan?
I'm from Canada originally. It's all right if you thought I was from the US. I'll forgive you. It's cool.
I actually thought you were from Canada, listening to the twang.
There you go. I love it.
Sweet talking. But I don't know what you guys are like. But generally, from our neck of the woods, from the UK, we have a very low opinion of ourselves, and we don't put ourselves out there. We're very afraid to make mistakes and put ourselves out there, generally speaking. And that's just fear of judgment. That's the biggest thing that we notice, that when we are coaching people, that they have a massive fear of what other people think about them. And you're not ever going to live an authentic life that's true to yourself if you think that. And also, you've got to really come to peace with the fact that you're not going to please everybody. It is impossible. You've just got to be you, go out there and do the things that you love. And hopefully that will align you with the right people in your life.
And nothing Dan said there comes from a place of us just being, we weren't just born into this really, really confident.
Maybe you were.
Yeah. That definitely is.
Yeah.
For sure. But no, that's one thing that I've noticed as well, and that's something that I've had to get over massively in myself. You know, I had a good amount of knowledge, and I've always worked with people on a one-to-one level, small group classes and things like that. Putting myself out on a platform like a podcast or speaking live on news or doing Facebook lives, and that used to petrify me, because you know you're so wrapped up in thinking, I don't want to mess up, I don't want people to think bad of me, I don't want to not be able to come across like I'm intelligent, or I can't articulate my words, or there's all those things, and we're actually fear stricken based on we want to be liked, and we don't want to be judged ultimately.
Yeah,
I don't
100.
know what's happened there. Matt's just
Yeah, we've lost Matt. So much confidence. The guy's just left the room.
He just blew up.
yeah. It's all right. He'll jump on when he jumps on again. But yeah, no, I think one thing that, I mean, I'm sure you guys have gone through, and I know I definitely have, especially in the last probably kind of 3 to 4 months, as you create content, I think a lot of times you doubt yourself, right? And then you doubt the content you put out there. And again, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a social media post, whether it's a Facebook Live, to your point, it's for some reason, you always think things have to be perfect. One of the biggest things I learned, I think, over the last 4 to 5 months, oh, look who's back. Look who's back. We've got him back, guys. Don't worry. For anybody out there who is waiting for Matt Hall to enter the building, he's entered the building again.
All them knowledge bombs, he exploded.
Yeah.
I never known that happened before, have you?
No, that is bizarre.
I don't know. I'm not going to lie, boys. I'm not going to lie. And anybody listening out there, you better appreciate this. But I realized, because I don't really have 2 people ever come on that often. So I didn't have Zoom Pro, and I was able to upgrade it and listen to everything you said within 30 seconds. So I wonder if that's what happened. You got kicked out because I'm now legitimate and have Pro. So it might be it.
Maybe that's what it was. Well, I'm back. What did I miss?
We were just saying you're way too confident, basically.
Oh, yeah. Well, on that, are we still recording, by the way? Is this still
yeah. Oh, yeah, we're still live, yeah.
Okay, well, on that point, just a point that I was going to make is we weren't born with, like, heaps of confidence. And equally, we're not born with no confidence. These are all learned behaviours that we pick up along the way. So understand, when people look at what Dan and I do with the podcast, that we've come through loads of judgment too. Like, we've had loads of negative internal dialogue, loads of people telling us not to do it, why we shouldn't do it, general kind of trolling and that kind of thing. But you've got to understand that what you're doing in your life, as long as it's aligned with your core values, as long as it's ethical, it's not doing harm to anybody else, it's congruent with who you are, what you think, what you feel, what you want to be doing, nobody else's judgment and nothing else external should ever stop you from doing that. So Dan was so right what he said. It's one of the biggest things we see time and time again with clients, and it's one of the biggest things that they need to work on is confidence, self-worth, self-love, self-belief. And remember, you don't improve those things if you're operating in a comfort zone. We talk about zones of operation. In order to get more confident, in order to have more self-belief, you have to do the things that make you feel it at the end once you get the result, which means operating in a stretch zone on a regular basis. You've got to keep pushing yourself. So if you don't want to do a Facebook Live, if you're scared to do one, but you want to do one, you just got to do one. And then it might be really shit. And then you've just got to do one again and do it again and do it again. And eventually it becomes normal. And what becomes a stretch zone.
Yeah. 100%. No, and before you came back on, Matt, because I know you're big time, you got a lot of people calling you probably left, right, and center, and Dan and I were just shooting shit here. I was just saying how, like, literally everything you guys talk about is just so relatable. Because I mean, you just said it yourself when you started the podcast. You were doubting it. People are probably telling you not to do it. And I remember when I first started, I was like, first of all, my fucking name's a Fitness Burrito. Like, right there, I'm gonna get judged. Who cares, right? The whole point about it is because there's a million layers in a burrito, and fitness is the same thing. There's so many different components to it. And I was like, and I kind of like the name, right? So, and then I thought, cool, I can do a flavor of the week segment. So then I always do a flavor of the week where we dive into stuff, right? Like there's methods to the madness. And I
You
thought,
need
you
to
know
stop
what?
this now. All this is doing is making me hungry. I'm trying to quit now.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? And then like, it's the same thing with my Instagram. Like sometimes I put content out, and then recently I just started to kind of go back to the basketball side of things, because that's like a big passion of mine. It's like, who cares if people doesn't like it? And I think to your point, you have to step out of your comfort zone if it's going to be your new normal. And this comes from a guy who moved halfway across the world to be with a British girl. I had no friends here. I literally lived with my missus's parents that I'd never met before for a month, trying to figure out what we're going to do for work. And luckily, like, they got along with me and I got along with them. But for that month, I was eating cheese and pickle sandwiches, and I never told her mom, because I was just trying to be nice and eat them when I hated them, right? So, you know what I mean? I was going through some shit, right? Cheese and pickle sandwiches, when you don't like them, it's a big deal. So
That is a big deal.
yeah, so I think it's, you know, a lot of our clients too right now, we just, because I work with another guy, we do a bit of stuff together, kind of like you guys, and we always try to tell clients, just try to be 1% better every day, just 1% better, right? And again, you guys have probably read the Atomic Habits book. I'm assuming you've heard about it, if not. And a lot of those kind of key principles in there is just trying to make our clients practice them, and also just trying to practice what we preach, right? Because it adds up over the long haul. So yeah, there's so many good bits and nuggets there. Dan, I don't know if you want to add anything onto that, mate, or Matt.
Well, that's exactly why we've chose to do something pretty radical for our 1 year anniversary. So that's coming up very soon on the 24th of July. We're going to go for a world record attempt.
Nice.
Which is the longest audio live stream. And that's 52 hours of being on constant flow. So we're getting all the guests on that we've had previously on the show. We've got new exciting guests coming on as well. And we're going to just keep delivering for that amount of time. We can't have any longer than 5 seconds audio delay. So we have to keep the show running. We're going to be strategic on how we're going to do that. We've got a game plan together. And this is just to showcase our message. Like,
no, Dan, we haven't got a game plan at all. We can get one together.
we think we do. And then
we'll
have
up as we go along, right?
like a famous quote by Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to kick in on the graveyard shift at like 3 a.m. on the second day. But you know what? Like, we're here to have a dig at life. We're here to have a go. We're doing it for a fantastic cause. We're raising money for 2 charities, and that's what we're all about. We're here to push the boundaries. We're here to say to people, don't just watch and listen to the content, grow with us, you know, do some of these things for yourself. Ultimately, that's what's going to make you feel happier and more fulfilled, and by default, that's going to bring the chances down of obesity, lifestyle diseases, mental health issues, and all the rest of them. So that's
what you said also about being 1% better every single day. You know, that's the thing, is when you do that consistently, like we talk about consistency being the key factor, so many people are yo-yos emotionally and mentally, and also in the actions that they take. When you can start to finally break that cycle and be more consistent, that's where bigger results can start to show. That's where your beliefs go up, and that's where 2 cousins just starting a podcast for a hobby a year ago are suddenly trying to do something that nobody else in the world has achieved in just 12 months' time. And it's the success cycle that you may have heard. Tony Robbins is big on talking about it, but it's the cycle why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because your belief controls your potential. Your potential controls the level of actions that you take, and the action that you take then controls the results that you get. So if you have small beliefs, then the potential that you can actually achieve by default becomes limited. That then means you go and take small action. Guess what kind of level of results you're going to get? They're going to be small results. Then that reinforces the belief that I told you I'm not good enough. I told you I couldn't do those big things and that was just for those people on telly. It's not for me. However, when you just take massive action, like launch a podcast, like, you know, go on national news, like get big guests on there, that then increases your results. Then you start to believe in yourself more. And then, as I say, you start to think, well, let's try and raise £20,000 for charity. Let's try and break a Guinness World Record. And this is the cycle. And we're doing it because one of our key things that we want to do is lead by example, not just for our own egos, but to be able to inspire others to show, look, if us two pretty thick guys from Bradford that just had a bit of a desire to learn more and to become a little bit more wiser can do this kind of shit, then you listening to this right now sure as hell can do it. And so just do it. Take massive action, get massive results, and then increase your belief about what's possible, and on the cycle goes.
Matt, just on that, right? So 2 things. First of all, like for anybody listening out there, like one of the big things that I think Matt just touched on is if you just do one thing every day for a year, you fucking watch what's going to happen, right? I don't care if it's going for a walk every day, eating an apple every day, flossing every day, like just watch what happens in a year. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we all got decent teeth. Yeah, nice one. Right. But I think a lot of people underestimate that massively. But the other question I have for you, and again, Dan, you can probably jump in here, start this off, is what is it about people that you think stops them from, like, you know, when people say, oh, take action, do this, do that, because they've heard it a million times, right? What is it? Do you think people see this whole like self-development thing as like, oh, that's bullshit and it's a bit cheesy and that's not about me right now? And they expect it to somehow like happen elsewhere in life? Because I mean, don't get me wrong. I think for me personally, this past year, I've massively invested in my own self-development. And I think in the past, I probably would have looked at those kind of people that kind of like talk about all that stuff and been like, oh yeah, whatever. It's just kind of sugarcoating it. When reality is, it's like, no. You just have to take action and actually do it, right? Like, what is it that are stopping people from really kind of chomping at the bit and diving into it, you think, Dan?
There could be many reasons, but again, it's just going to come down to self-worth, self-belief. People just lack belief in themselves. And they also, I think most of the time people can get sold on the gloss. They can get sold on the abs. They can get sold on the pictures and the outcome. They get sold on the outcome. What people don't generally like is the process. So a few people wiggle the toe in the process and then they find out this is actually quite difficult. I don't like it. And then they stop.
And they retreat.
And that's generally, and what's quite funny is our animal instinct is we always want to go back to comfort. How many people, Dan, do you know, part of your clients and people that are involved in the gym and what have you, how many people have regressed during lockdown, during COVID-19, and on every level? And what we do when adversity comes, our animal instinct is to go back to the womb. We go back to our comfort, like straight back to comfort. And it's funny, my girlfriend told the dog off the other day for running in with muddy paws. And the first thing that he did, he shot to his bed and he turned round about 5 times and then curled up in a ball in his bed. And that's our animal instincts. We want to do that. So, and it's about overcoming what we feel like we want to do. Because 9 times out of 10, when motivation starts to dwindle, that's when the work starts, and you've got to be happy in the process. That's the key for me, I think. Being aware that the process is sometimes going to be longer than you expected. It's going to be difficult, but it's always going to be worth it.
And just to add to what you were saying as well, I think one of the common misconceptions about personal development is that it's all about happy, clappy positivity. Everyone high-fiving because it's marketed that way, right? You see the Tony Robbins events, everyone's in arenas. It looks a bit like a crazy cult where everyone, do you know what I'm saying? Like, so I would have been like you a few years ago looking at the personal development market. You know, it's a little bit false. And it's a little bit like, but the thing I want people listening to this to understand is personal development is in no way, shape or form about positivity 99% of the time. It's the exact opposite. It's about asking the most difficult questions about yourself, about your beliefs, about your relationships, about your financial set point, your relationship with asking for money, charging money in business. It's about doing the really, really difficult shit. And it's about actually becoming more resilient, tougher, stronger, and coming through adverse times and still being able to get up and go again. That's what personal development is. Remember this, personal development is developing the person. And we develop, we grow, as I said earlier, when we're stretched, when we're teetering on the edge of the panic zone. So it's actually the opposite to the marketing. And when you think where coaching originated from, you know, we get coaches in sports, We get coaches in dance, we get drama coaches, we get vocal coaches. So in all these areas where we want help, support, guidance, to be motivated, to be stretched, in sports and in the arts, we get a coach. When it comes to actually developing as a person, we're just going at it blind and just like, we've got no idea. That's why I got into life coaching and personal development coaching, because what part of your life is more important to actually grow and achieving than every area, not just your chosen field of career. It's your relationships, it's your mindset, and it's the whole package. So for me, personal development and personal development coaching is about having someone that's going to tell you some home truths. And it ain't going to be nice from time to time. More often than not, it's actually going to be pretty shit and horrible. But if you can endure it, if you can keep on getting back up and keep pushing forward, that's where results can start to come over time.
Yeah, it's a really good point when you think about how you get a coach for basically everything else, but you don't get a coach for life itself. So
like the most important gift you've been given, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a really kind of cool point. And I think when you put it in that perspective, a lot of people are going to go, oh shit, yeah, that makes sense.
Finally.
Yeah, big time. On motivation, because again, we're just going to keep diving down the rabbit holes here. Motivation, right? I'm sure you guys have seen about 1 million posts on Instagram about it. There's, motivation, mindset Monday, motivation Monday, God knows what people post. What are your thoughts on this whole, like, it exists, it doesn't exist? On which side of the fence are you on? Are you even on the fence? Like, how do you help your clients when it comes to motivation? Because I think a lot of what we've been trying to do with our clients, I think to your point, Matt, has been being a bit honest about how, like, some days you're going to wake up feeling like shit, but you just need to get shit done, right? And it's how you set up those systems around you to help you stay consistent. Because at the end of the day, like, I can wake up, like I woke up yesterday, I didn't want to do anything, but I still worked out and I still did a few things because I knew if I didn't, it was going to hinder my progress. But how do you guys kind of tend to coach that whole motivation side of things that way?
It's looking after your health first. So it's putting your health tactics and strategies in place beforehand. So eating the right foods, hydrating, getting a good night's sleep, getting a sleep routine, cutting caffeine down, having a caffeine curfew, looking at your lifestyle a little bit more. So when you do that and you start to put the right fuel in the tank, that's when you can have a bit more clarity, because we're so busy right now. We're living a really, really high stressful life because we're spinning so many plates. We have no chance if we're not looking after ourselves, absolutely none, because you're not going to think clearly, you're not going to have clarity, you're not going to have energy, and then you're not going to work out well, you're not going to show up to things. Like you said, I love the energy right at the beginning of the podcast. How can you have energy if you're not looking after yourself? And you have to become self-aware enough to take care of yourself first before you can take care of other things in your life and other people. Many people that we coach, and I see this quite often with mothers as well, they give, and there's nothing left for them, and they don't look after themselves. So that's why motivation dwindles with many people, because they're not ultimately looking after them. And you've got to put yourself first before others, and then that is very difficult to do, and that's very difficult for people to actually acknowledge. But it's reinforcing that message time after time after time, that you have your own routines in place to exercise, to possibly stretch, meditate, read a book, go for a walk, plan your meals, and all those sorts of things, so that then you've got half a chance of doing the things that you actually want to do. Because otherwise, you're just going to show up with a very low vibration, very low energy. You're not going to attract the right people into your life and the right circumstances, because your energy's whack. And then that's why the motivation dwindles. So ultimately, it's getting all those core things in place first. Look after yourself.
And just going back to your point there about, what is motivation? Is it intrinsic, and the sort of the debate about what motivation is. There's a few points to consider. I think first and foremost, got to recognise that motivation is everything. If you don't have the motivation to get out of bed in the morning and go to work, you will spend the rest of your life in bed. If you don't have the motivation to turn this light switch off, it will stay on forever until it burns out. One of the ways my coach once said it to me and you, Dan, on our podcast is if you don't have motivation to wipe your bum, you get a messy bum. Like, so we think of motivation as being like go-getters, action takers, doing huge things. But every single day, we've all got motivation all throughout the day. Now, here's the thing. You can't rely on having huge amounts of motivation at all times because it's not possible to have it all the time. So it's about vetting your energy and your frequency and being aware. We talk about something called the frequency chart, where you don't get too attached to the adrenal highs, the endorphin highs, or the adrenal slumps. It's about not getting too attached to the good moments, but equally not too attached to the down moments, because both are equally draining. And in order to be in a progressive, productive state, we need to be in the desired state that we coach, which is neutral. We need to be aiming for that state where we can just keep moving forward regardless of what's going on around us. And I think bringing it back to motivation specifically, I think if you are in a place right now and you feel like you want to get more done and you're not happy with your current results, one of the things you've got to come to terms with and recognize is, can you become a person that doesn't rely on motivation to get shit done anyway? Because if we only rely on doing great things when we feel great, then we immediately massively limit the potential of what we can get done in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. So that in itself is the skill that I work on with my coaching clients, is can we still do what's required when we don't feel like it? Because if you model anybody that's a successful person, that's a skill that they've had to hone their craft in. You know, they've had to be able to do that. They still have mornings where they wake up and they just want to Netflix and chill and do fuck all. We all still have those mornings, but it's not about how you feel. It's about what you do regardless of how you feel. We coach something called act as if. Act how you want to feel, not how you do feel. And as a result, you'll start to feel how you wanted anyway. If you change your physiology, if you change your tone of voice, if you deploy the character traits that you need to deploy as a confident, energized, motivated person, just by doing that, physically you start to feel happier and more positive and motivated. So act how you want to feel regardless of how you feel.
Yeah, that's really, really good. I remember actually reading an article about just smiling, even if you're just faking it, will make you feel better, right?
Totally right, yeah.
So again, just kind of what you said, if you just start modeling a certain kind of like appearance, or I guess not appearance, but even just like a body language, it's going to showcase in everything you do. You also mentioned a few cool things, and I think motivation is a very, like, you can speak to about a million people and ask them what they think motivation is, right? And you'll get a whole bunch of different explanations. I really like yours, and I kind of tend to gravitate towards that same approach as, look, you have to have motivation to do things every day, but it's what you put in place to do things when you're not motivated. And I think one thing recently that's kind of come up with a lot of my clients is whether or not they feel like they have that clarity of what it is they're wanting to achieve. And I know we've said about like a million times already, why are you doing things? But if you can just be more self-aware and just reflect a little bit every day, I don't care what it is. It could be yoga for you. It could be, meditating. It could be just writing something down in a journal. And again, there's so many different approaches. I think this is why a lot of people struggle, because they can't seem to find the right one for them, because they might just try what their mate's done. They might try what their mom or their dad's done, and then it doesn't stick. And they just kind of say, to your point, Dan, earlier, oh, I don't have that self-belief anymore because I've tried one thing and it doesn't work. Okay, yeah, but like there's a million things out there. You just have to keep going. So we try to help our clients every day. One thing we've started to do is we've got this new app called Just Coach. It just recently came out. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've heard about it. Have you guys heard of Just Coach? So kind of like My PT Hub and all those apps, but Just Coach is a new one that's come out on the market, and you can essentially you can do like accountability programs, habit programs. You can set journals so that every day they wake up, they have notifications. They can start doing positive affirmations in these journals, and we track it and we can see everything they input, right? So that when we have our calls on a weekly basis, then we can actually kind of touch base on this and have more deep, meaningful conversations and really get them to self-reflect. And one of the things I was so shit at doing when I first became a PT was listen. right? Just listening and then kind of picking out what these people were actually saying and then diving deeper into those conversations. So I don't know if, I'm assuming that's one thing you guys have probably learned through time as well, which is kind of like having those reflective, more raising conversations with your clients are huge, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And also reinforcing that your own silence is really important. You get a lot of answers in silence. So going for a walk or meditating, stretching, I like to use a tactic each night where about half an hour before I go to bed, I'll spend that duration just stretching in silence. And I'm opening my body, so that's facilitating my training because I'm passionate about staying healthy and staying fit and staying strong. So I'm ticking that box. And then also it's really good for my nervous system and I'm recovering well. And then I'm getting some clarity in terms of, right, what do I need to do next? Is that working for me? What about that situation? What about this relationship? And you sometimes get some answers in the silence. So it's not always having the conversations, because sometimes we can get a lot of input externally. So people will tell us what to do. A coach will tell us what to do. The power comes from within. The power comes from giving somebody the space, and you've got to create the time to do that. And that's the discipline side of things. So you've got to create the time for yourself to understand, well, what do I want? Is that helping me? Is that serving me? What about that job? What about that role? What about that relationship? And you've got to ask the questions to yourself. That's where the power comes. And then that's how then you can start to get the results, because you're more clear. It's the clarity that we need.
Yeah. And bringing it full circle as well, when it comes to struggling with motivation, it does come back to everything we've said about vision and having a clear vision and making sure it's the right vision. And also perspective and gratitude. 2 words that are thrown about all over the place, and they're almost really nice, marketable words in personal development. But people, when you do actually deploy real gratitude, that's the biggest motivator that you can ever have. Because think of it like this way, this is gratitude. Many people this morning didn't wake up that went to bed last night. You're telling me that you woke up this morning, you've got this beautiful opportunity to do whatever you want to try and achieve and do, and you're not going to take it today. You're just going to lie in bed and just eat some chocolate and put the duvet over your head. That is true gratitude. People just kind of, when they kind of do what we call surface level personal development, just kind of go, I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to have my friends. But they don't actually think about what that actually means. Like, this is real. Life is very, very, very short. We've got this tiny window of opportunity, and it's just about maximizing, I believe, what you can do with that little opportunity. That for me is motivation.
Yeah, defo. I think a lot of people, even, you know what, and I know sometimes it takes events like these to make people realize what actually matters and, you know, the shit happening in the world. But I think a lot of people will have come out, hopefully a better person after COVID, because it's allowed them to think about all these little things that they probably hadn't thought about before and be a bit more grateful for life in general. And that sounds deep, right? Some people might think, oh, that's cheesy, Dan. I don't give a shit. Like, that's how I think now. Like, there's so many things that I took for granted before COVID. And now I think, wow, like, I didn't enjoy the simple things before. And now I realize I probably don't even need to do half the stuff and spend half the money I used to spend, right? So I'm sure you guys are kind of the same for a few of those things as well.
Well, it's a thirsty machine, is life sometimes. And you've got to be careful, because the things that we want ultimately don't serve us long term. You know, like, you can work your ass off for something and then you can get surplus money, but in that journey there's so much expenditure. Look at it like this. You see these 2p slot machines, and then that'll push some more 2p's forward so that you can collect some more. And that's what we do. We're just like so busy putting the coins in so we can get a small investment coming back, and we're playing this game, and it's exhausting. And you've got to think, well, what am I doing? You know, like, is this, my relationship's going to shit? I'm a father. Am I looking after my kids well enough? You know, you've got to start asking questions like that. So if you're deep thinking and people regard that as cheesy, that's shame on them, really, because, you know, you've got to start thinking a little bit more deeply, because that is truly where we get the answers, and then ultimately how we lead a full fulfillment of life. Rich in success doesn't just mean hype, noise, and money and abs. You know, it means, are we fulfilled in all areas, and do we have a rich life, rich connections and things like that? They're important too. So, you know, and it's having all facets of life and spinning all the plates nicely. And that's a difficult task.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people basically sacrifice their lives trying to figure that out, don't they? So I think it's, you know, the more deep, impactful, honest conversations you can have with yourself. I mean, I think you're going to be such a better person for it. And I wish I would have started doing that 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So I think you know, everything happens for a reason, and, you know, you are where you are today because of your actions and your choices, but, you know, hindsight's 20/20, all that stuff. So, I thought a cool thing to maybe throw your guys' way, would be a bit of a flavor of the week kind of mindset article. And don't worry if you haven't read this, because I'm basically just going to throw a few things at you and kind of get your thoughts. So every podcast episode, or most podcast episode, I try to do a flavor of the week segment. And the flavor of the week segment is basically I'll pull like a journal article of some sort, usually kind of fitness, nutrition related, and we'll just kind of dive into it, talk about it, see what your guys' thoughts are. And today I thought I'd get one on mindset, and I found a really good one actually. And it's titled "Lifestyles and Mindsets of Olympic, Paralympic, and World Champions." And they've just kind of looked at what these people thought were common themes to essentially contribute to their success, right? And a lot of what we talked about today kind of touches on these points. And there's 4 common themes amongst these people, right? There was about 10 athletes that they interviewed, and looked at like sub-themes, common themes. So one of them was psychological attributes. So as an example, you know, self-regulation, intrinsic motivation, visualization, and imagery strategies, just to name a few. That's kind of certain things that they did. The second theme that came out was performance strategies. So, you know, how they maximize their training, performance, health, you know, physical therapy, all these kind of things. Theme number 3 was interpersonal relationships. So more so looking at kind of like their support network, their coaches, the people around them, helping them be a success. And then the lifestyle practices, which was number 4. So nutrition, hydration, you know, again, different therapies that might not be included in theme 3, and then just taking a break. So if we just look at those themes, are you guys surprised by any of that? Do you think it relates to the average person that's not an Olympian?
Oh, they're absolutely bang on the money, aren't they? You know, and if you don't have any one of them, then you're massively hindering your progress. And I think one that just stuck out there that we've not really talked about is being aware of your inner circle, being around the right people that do help push you. And for me, it's discontinuing relationships with people where you don't serve them and they don't serve you equally. Because too many people are what we call energy draining vampires. And they latch onto positivity and they just drain it out of you and they make you negative. And what we talked about briefly about judgment, you know, a lot of people's negative judgments comes from their own unfulfillment in their own life. It comes from their own limiting beliefs about what's possible that they then project onto you. So I think a big one there that we've not touched on today is be aware. Who are the 5 people you hang around with? Do they add to your life? Do they inspire? Do they motivate? Do they encourage? Or do they just take? Do they make you feel shit? Do you leave their company and think, do you know what? They've just drained the fuck out of me and they've just made me not want to do this anymore or whatever. If that's the case, I don't care who they are, coming back to my point that life's very short, you've got to move away from them circles. You just have to. So I think that's a big one. And anybody that's, you know, of a peak performance mindset or anything like that, that is something they take very, very seriously. But yeah, everything you've said there, bar none, I think, unless you picked anything out, Dan, it's all integral.
Yeah, absolutely bang on. And also what people struggle to see sometimes, let's say, for example, it's a professional athlete and they may be a track and field athlete and their job is to run the 100 meters as fast as possible. So they get out of the blocks and they sprint in a straight line and they get to the other side as quick as they can. That sounds quite simple, doesn't it? But all those areas and all those facets that we talked about have to be in alignment in order for them to run as fast as they can in forward motion. Yeah. So, and that's what people have to understand when it comes to setting goals and things. There's many, many areas that we have to get right in order to for it to develop properly and to flourish. And it's like, I always use this analogy with my clients when they're getting their nutrition wrong and things like that. And it's like putting a plant in the sun and not giving it the right attention, the right water, and looking after it. If you don't do those things and all those background things, it's like the tip of the iceberg. People only see the iceberg. They don't see everything that's underneath. And all those things have to be in place, like you've just mentioned there, in order to get the success. And athletes in particular make their craft look very easy, but people don't really see how challenging it is in order for them to execute the things that they do. And that's the thing, it's opening up that, it's almost like a can of worms. There's so many angles and things to get wrong. I mean, how many times have you missed a shot in basketball and things that you've had to learn about being on the court? And then when you pull something off, it looks quite easy, it looks quite effortless. But the amount of times that you've had to drill and get things wrong and be coached and come away and make some more mistakes and drill again and get better at other things in order for you to make that shot. It's just, there's so many layers deeper than what meets the eye. That's the thing.
Yeah, man, honestly, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't think you guys are going to struggle with this 52-hour Guinness World Record, I think you guys are going to smash it, man. Like, I just listening to you guys talk right now, I just feel like you could go on forever, and it's been class so far. The info has been unreal. Honestly, for anybody listening out there, like, if you don't take one thing away from this podcast, I don't even know what to tell you. I really don't.
There's a few nuggets to take away, so yeah, hopefully that's helped, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
but I think the main thing to give people, if they was going to take one thing away, is remember this: if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. Okay. And one thing we put a massive emphasis on with people is, and I know I said it at the beginning, but don't just read personal development books. I did a live Q&A last night, and somebody asked me, like, what book would you recommend? And I was like, I can recommend books, but here's the thing: statistically, most people buy a book and they don't read past the second chapter. And most people that get to the end of the book don't implement any of the strategies they've learned. So books, this podcast, listening to this conversation, watching a motivational speech on YouTube is all fantastic, but it's all absolutely useless unless you do something with that. And I say that again from a place of experience. I used to listen to podcasts, read books, watch these videos, and it had to get to a point where I was like, how many years am I going to keep getting hyped up with all this stuff and not start fully committing to really implementing the things I was learning? Because knowledge is not power without application. Remember that. So whatever you've taken, whatever resonated with you today, make sure you immediately act on it right now. Don't even listen to what we say next. Just turn this off and go. Get on with it.
Dad, did you want to add to that, mate? Sorry. I thought you were about to give me like the gun on camera. I don't know.
I was like boom, boom, shots in the air. It's just going, and that is it. That is it. It's applying. Bruce Lee said it best. Knowledge is nothing without application, and we have to go out and willingly.
No, Bruce Lee, that I thought that was a Matt Hall special. I thought I did that.
Yeah, you can take it today.
Yeah.
But these things have been around for centuries now. They've been ancient philosophers. We did a podcast on one. What were he called, Matt? Marcus Aurelius. The obstacle is the way. It's an old ancient philosophy. This stuff's been around for years, and it's just actually understanding that you just need to have the courage to see things through. Just go out there and start making some mistakes and authentically just be yourself and try your best not to give a shit about what people are thinking and what people are saying about you. As long as you're not doing no harm in the world, as long as you're doing things that are morally right and your intentions are pure, then just go out and be yourself.
And on that, Dan, stop fearing failure. I can't remember the last time that I achieved something or got a quick win and I grew massively as a person and I learned loads. You learn the most and you grow the most from getting things wrong. There's people that are afraid of failing, so they're just kind of teetering along doing the same stupid stuff, and they've not seen it through to actually get that result of a failure. Because remember, failing at something is a result. So getting results is important. So actually people are doing the same thing for year after year after year without actually seeing it through to failure. And therefore that can just carry on for years. Fail hard, fail forward, fail again. I think it was Will Smith who said something similar. Actually embrace and chase failure, because at least you got a result. And when you get a result, you learn, you grow, you can pivot, you can change, you can adapt, and then you can move forward. And I think that's something. Stop fearing judgment, stop fearing failure.
100%. Love it. Yeah. I mean, just to piggyback off that, and before I kind of go on to the last few bits I want to go through with you, is you said like the whole knowledge is worthless without application. And I'm not going to lie, that was me in certain aspects of life, probably the last 3-4 years, when I was just banking all this info. And if anything, I was actually teaching other people how to apply it and not applying it myself. And then I realized, like, what the fuck am I waiting for, man? Like, I just need to go for it. And then I realized, yeah, cool, I'm going to spend a bit of money, but what's money, right? Like, I'll get it back. Like, I'm still paying my bills. I'm still eating all the food I need to eat every day. I've got everything around me. I'm going on holidays. Like, realistically, what's the big deal if I spend a couple grand on something and it doesn't work out? And I think, again, just to finalize that point, which you started, which is like, don't be afraid to fail, because ultimately it's feedback, right? And you take that feedback and then you realize, okay, cool. So maybe my sales page on my website didn't work. Why is it? Well, hopefully you have some kind of way to get feedback on that sales page. Then you tweak it. Next thing you know, right, just that 5% better improvement is going to lead to 200, 300, 500 pounds worth of sales next time. And it's like, if you don't know what you're doing wrong because you don't have that system in place to gather feedback in the first place, then you'll never know how to improve. And I think if you just keep chasing something and you don't have that system, then sometimes you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So really, really good point there.
Just on that as well, a really good point that you've made there is actually investing in yourself, because that's the thing when we talk about money, you backed yourself, because you was like, I might lose some money, but I believe in myself enough to know that I'll figure it out long term. As long as you back yourself 110%, and remember, nobody else is going to back you unless you do, you'll make it work. And that's where, for me, you've got to stop seeing personal development as just being something, and fitness and all that as just something you're just going to download free videos and just listen to free podcasts. You've got to fully invest in yourself. There's something I said recently that is, if you forever just consume free content, it will be worth the value that you paid in the long run. It'll be worth nothing, because it's not just listening and consuming and having the knowledge that gets you the results. You've got to get out there. You've got to invest. You've got to invest emotionally, financially, physically. You've got to invest time. Something I actually put a status out today said, pay the price of success so you don't have to suffer the cost of failure. Everything in life comes at a price. You've just got to decide, are you going to suffer the cost of failure down the line, or are you going to pay the price today in investing in becoming better and moving forward? So, and the only reason you'll stop when you're about to make that payment is if you don't believe you've got the ability to grow, to achieve, and to make that money back. If you back yourself 110%, what's 100 grand on your personal development if you believe it'll turn into $1 million? It all comes down to belief. It's that simple.
Yeah, definitely. And you'll have ups and downs, but just stick to the process, right? And I don't know if you guys have heard this one. When it comes to, people, I think voicing what they're trying to achieve. And this is one thing as well that I've been really trying to nail with my phone calls when I have with clients is I hear, oh, I could and I would, right? And I might. And I'm like, okay, what's that? Sorry. Can you take that word out of that sentence? And then I'll say, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm doing this. So it's a lot more, I'm doing it. You know what I mean? There's less, I think, what's the word? Sorry.
I hear try a lot.
Yeah. I'm French, by the way. So if I can't find the word sometimes, I'm allowed, right? Because it's not my first language. So, but basically I think a lot of people doubt themselves, and you can hear it in their sentences. And I'm just trying to change that. And I'm trying to get them to just say, no, I'm doing this. And like, this is when it's going to happen. And already once you start believing in yourself, you start talking that way. And it goes back to thinking, I don't know if you've heard this, but some person goes up and passes a cigarette to one guy and they go, do you want a cigarette? And they go, oh no, I'm trying to quit right now. And then they pass it to the second person, goes, no, I'm not a smoker. They're both trying to quit, but one person says, I'm not a smoker. So he's already self-identifying that way. Whereas the other person is self-identifying as a smoker who's trying to quit. There's a big difference there. And I think that's one thing I've been massively trying to kind of like I guess, prompt with my clients so that they can start thinking differently. So I don't know if you guys have ever kind of used that with your clients, or if that's something you kind of sometimes talk them through, but I thought I'd throw it out there.
100%. In NLP, which is something I'm a practitioner in, it's actually the word that Dan said there, try, is banned. Because as soon as we say we're going to try, we're already subconsciously convincing ourselves that we're not going to do it. And if we don't do it, it's all right, because we've already said we were just going to try anyway. When you start committing to saying, I will get that done, it puts more weight on it. And remember, language is very powerful. So that's checking in with your internal dialogue and being aware, what are the phrases you say about yourself? A lot of us are very unkind to ourselves internally. We wouldn't talk to anybody the way we speak to ourselves. So is your internal dialogue actually empowering, motivating? Does it make you want to, push outside your comfort zone? Or, and I know an analogy you use a lot, Dan, is like, if you're about to lift a heavy weight in the gym, what's going on there? Are you talking yourself out of it before you've even given it a shot, before you've even held the thing? Are you going, well, that's too heavy, I can't do that? Guess what? You definitely won't. And it's the quote, isn't it? Those who say they can and those who say they can't are both correct in what they're saying.
That's why we're massive advocates of physically pushing your boundaries as well, because if you do that frequently and on a weekly basis, and your internal dialogue tells you, oh, this is a grind, I'm struggling here. Like I've been in many, many pain caves when I've been exercising and when I've been competing. I've come from a rugby background, I've boxed and I've done CrossFit competitions. So I've put my body through the mill over the years, and your internal dialogue never wants you to do that stuff in the moment. When you're doing a 400-meter sprint, your legs are on fire and everything's telling you to slow down, and you've got to have that determination to see it through regardless. And when you get used to doing that week in, week out, and you just constantly keep ignoring that message that you tell yourself, that can then open any channel. Then it can open up endless possibilities for other things that you're searching for. So I'm a massive advocate of that. Push yourself physically, do it as frequently as you can, so that you get used to pushing through your physical boundaries. And it's all a mindset anyway. How you approach something in the gym is how you're going to approach a lot of things. If you walk up to a bar and you're going to do your 1 rep max deadlift, if you think to yourself, I'm not sure about this, well, guess what? It's not going to go up. If you know that when you grip that bar and you get yourself in a position and it's going, it's going, it's going to go. And that's the end of it. So
no, defo. No, I love it. When you said when you walk up to a bar there, I thought you meant you're getting a pint for a minute.
Yeah.
I said, I know the bar is just
ask for that pint. Demand that pint.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, listen, guys, look, I mean, I've kept you for quite a bit of time, and I really appreciate everything you guys have talked about. I think it's been class. And, as soon as this is over, I'm going to send it straight over to my clients in our group and just be like, look, have a listen. But I thought, we'll finish off on probably a question that you guys ask all your guys all the time, which I thought was a nice little question. But what does success look like to you? So whoever wants to take that on, finish that off, that'd be great. And if you want to both do it, you can both do it. But yeah, who wants to take that on first?
You want to go first, Dan?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Success to me is being happy in your own skin, regardless of your situation. Life can be difficult sometimes and it can throw big curveballs at us. But as long as you feel like your intentions are pure and you do things right for the greater good of other people, and you can lay your head down at night and feel comfortable with who you are, then that's success to me. It doesn't matter about all the other, achievements, pats on the back, accolades, money in the bank. Ultimately, it's about you feeling fulfilled in the moment every day. And that's it. It's you've got to come back to the basics. You get millionaires and you get, people of power and elite sports people suicidal and things like that. So that really makes you want to question life at that point. So it's about you being fulfilled with yourself, regardless of your clothes, your money, your assets. If you're comfortable in you, then that's success.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Matt?
Completely agree. I second that. And I think just to add to it, it's just that word fulfillment for me. Are you feeling fulfilled in the life that you're leading on a daily basis? That for me is success. If you can answer yes every day.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I think you guys took all the best points there. They've definitely said that before. They've rehearsed that, I think, a few times.
We actually haven't. What's interesting is we've never been asked that question, have we, Dan? We was going to do at our first event, we was going to do the first Q&A of each other and ask ourselves our definition of success. And the event ran over, didn't it? So we didn't get a chance to do the podcast bit.
Yeah, because Matt talked too much, if you can believe that one.
I don't think anybody can imagine that being.
Yeah, that's cool then. So I kind of took that away from you. So my bad, but I thought it'd be cool. You mentioned at the very beginning, I thought, yeah, I'm planting that seed, and then I'm going to throw that out at the end.
No, that's nice.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys. Look, massive thank you again. I really appreciate it. I took a whole lot out of that. And again, I think just a final point for me is one of the big reasons I also started this podcast was to learn from the people that I brought on. From a selfish point of view, like I just wanted to learn and then use that information to apply it for myself and to my clients. And yeah, this has been one of my favorite ones. So I really appreciate that. So just a quick outro. As always, guys, if you guys just want to tell the people where they can find you, if they're interested in working with you, kind of where can people find you right now?
Yeah, I think the main thing for us, obviously we've got our own podcast, Rich in Success, on Apple Podcasts. It's on Stitcher, SoundCloud, and most podcasting platforms. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as @Rich in Success. And obviously we want to try and raise as much money as possible it's the Brain Tumour Charity and also the Yorkshire Cancer Research. So all money that we raise will be going 50-50 to those two charities. That is why we're doing the Guinness World Record attempt. If you follow us on any social media, you can also get us individually. I'm Matt Hall and Dan is Dan Ramsden. And check us out on Instagram. I'm Matt Hall Official and Dan is Flight Coaching. If you check us out on any of there, you'll see the link. We'd really massively appreciate any donations whatsoever, or even if you can just spread awareness for what we're trying to do, because there might be somebody else that sees it. In the first week since we've announced it, we've raised over £700, which is absolutely amazing. But we have set ourselves a massive goal, which is what we do, of 20,000. So it's only possible if it's a team effort. So please, the two charities very close to our hearts, and we'd really like to make a big difference. So we need all the support we can get.
Awesome. Dan, did you want to add on to that, or did Matt cover most of it?
He smashed that then, so yeah, you can have all of that.
No, yeah, that's class. Well, listen, I'll definitely be sharing all that stuff. I'll be supported and helping out any way I can. And yeah, massive thanks again. And as always, guys, I'm Dan Kirion, Dan Q for short, because you'll butcher my last name. And yeah, I'm the guy behind the Fitness Burrito, behind Abante Performance. You can check all my stuff out at Abante Performance. But as always, all the info will be in the show notes, where you can find Dan, Matt, and all the cool stuff that will be going on. So massive thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, cheers, man.